Well, thank you very, very much for that warm introduction. And before I go any further, can I please extend greetings of solidarity from the 185,000 members of the Australian Education Union. Can I also please extend greetings from our Indigenous brothers and sisters, the First Peoples of Australia. And can I also extend solidarity to our brothers and sisters in the church, in the Christchurch area, where you continue to show incredible strength, motivation in the face of incredible adversity, and for that, thank you, because you inspire us. I really don't know where to start. Francis, what is it with modern politicians and this feeling, they're almost compelled to quote from these solitary emails they receive every now and then from a principal or a parent. As a teacher, I sat there listening, and I always hear the indefinite article a. I think we should tell them, use the definite article the principal or the parent, and it'll be a bit more honest in terms of presentation. It strikes me as very odd, because I don't think anyone here has sent an email congratulating the course of their It's indeed an honour and a privilege to be with you today. And I've had the opportunity to listen and observe your debates throughout the course of the day, and I'll come back to the Minister, there's too much material to let go. It's indeed an honour and a privilege, because I've listened to your debates, and I want to join with you and speak up and speak out for our kids. I congratulate you on the direction that you're forging at this conference, at this annual meeting, because it is about speaking up, it is about speaking out, and it's about taking ownership of our agenda and reclaiming our agenda and reclaiming our language, the language of the classroom, the language of excellence. I heard the Minister, and it was pointed out also in the comments made thanking her or acknowledging her attendance. The Minister said, and I think I'm quoting here verbatim, the government wants the education system in New Zealand to become a great education system. Well, I stand with you because we want to go from great to excellent. It's the language of the classroom, the language of excellence, the language of achievement, the language of aspirational goals to ensure that every child can reach his or her full potential. That's what defines us, that's what drives us, and will continue to do so. It was also interesting to hear the Minister talk about, quote, you all have a vital role to play in delivering the government's agenda in education. It's not what defines us. What defines us are those kids in our classroom. It's that belief, in that fundamental belief in the transformative power of education and what it means to each individual child and the nation as a whole. Not some short-term political agendas, not a media grab, not another soundbite, not another slogan. It's about each individual child, ensuring each child can reach their full potential. And that requires an adequate investment in every child. You know, I read the banners. And what we know is that kids get one chance in life. What that means is that a failure to adequately invest today in every child ostensibly robs them of their future. They get one chance. And when governments disingenuously talk about billions and billions and billions or millions, etc., what they fail to acknowledge that we can do the sums, and we know that in real terms, they're cuts. That's the difference. They're cuts. We build hope, they undermine it. We want to build opportunity, they want to cut it down. We want to secure the future of every child, they want to deny it. There's a fundamental difference. I listened very carefully this morning to Paul's opening presentation and the political context that he set to challenge us all at this conference. And something rare happened this morning in the world of teacher unions. There was a standing ovation. And I think that speaks volumes. I want to endorse the sentiment of that standing ovation because, Paul, I think your analysis is spot on. And what it illustrates is all of us are thirsting, are yearning for a more pronounced analysis and some more direct action, and hence we're speaking up. Paul talked about the international landscape, and it's pretty grim. We know there are forces of darkness, global capital, those prophets of greed who brought us the global financial crisis. They're eyeing education. Education, public education, free education for all is in their firing line. And that's because education, if you like, is one of those last frontiers for global capital. There's an untapped and an unlimited resource. It's called generation after generation after generation of kids. And they know how much they can exploit and profit from those generations of kids before us. We have got tough times ahead of us. But there's one bulwark, there's one obstacle, a huge obstacle, standing between global capital, those prophets of greed, those ideologues of the unfettered market. There's one obstacle standing between them and that last frontier. And that's us, the teacher union movement of the world. The truth is, regrettably so, in many other industries, the union movement is not as strong as it should be. And many will say to you, and this is globally so, that teacher unions are the last bastions of unionism, strong unionism. They want to get us. They want to bring us down. They want us out of their way to play out their ambitions. We're seeing it all over the world. In the US, what's happening in Wisconsin and so many other states where they're attacking the unions, the right to collectively bargain, and in order to cripple the union, they cut deductions at source, check-off systems, or payroll deductions for their unions. We have to firewall ourselves against the excesses of capital that are out to get us. And I understand from last year's debate and this year's debate, you're engaged in a campaign to make the switch, or words to that effect, if I'm not mistaken. For all of us, there's a lesson in what's happening globally. We've got to firewall ourselves. We can't be reliant on employers for our income stream. We've got to make the switch. We've got to become self-reliant. It's very important. Very important. We've got a job ahead of us, a big job, and that is securing the future of our children from one generation to the next. Because what we stand for is that chain, is that link in the chain where one generation makes a promise to the next. It's the promise of great public education to excellent public education from one generation to the next. The challenges are great. And just so that we're better informed, I just want to share with you just very briefly, because I'm conscious of time, some of the challenges in Australia. We are much further down the track of Neanderthalism than you are. We have a government that's still hell-bent on introducing bonus pay for teachers, and wants to introduce bonuses for schools as well. These are corporate-style bonuses, all of them found in that world of the market. And we keep on saying to them, a school is not a market. It's a place of learning. It's a place where we foster in children that sense of citizenship. But nonetheless, they're pursuing this path. They've announced, for example, that they want to provide bonus pay for up to 10% of teachers and give them up to 10% of their salary in 2 cash instalments a year on the basis of national standardised tests and student and parental satisfaction surveys. That's what I reckon too. Now, I know we all like to be popular in our classrooms, but it's not a popularity contest. Apart from being methodologically and logistically flawed, it's an offence to the profession. And it stands in the way of what contributes to the most successful teaching and learning, and that's that collegial atmosphere, that collaborative approach where we sit down together as educators, where we review and evaluate our programs. We learn a bit more from each other in the interest of improving educational outcomes for our kids. Something happened to our former minister, who happens to be the Prime Minister now, in 2008 when she went to New York. Something happened between her and Joel Klein, who coincidentally, Joel Klein, if you haven't been following his career as much as we may have been following in Australia, is now employed by Rupert Murdoch. And before Murdoch's problems in the UK couldn't have happened to a better bloke. He was commissioned, and hence my point earlier about this last frontier of that potentially exploitable resource called public schools. Klein was given a new job, and that was to introduce a computerised learning system of sort in schools across New York to start off with, and the US to be followed, for profits ranging in the billions and billions and billions of dollars. It wasn't for any reasons of altruism that they were looking to this. But in 2008, something happened to Julia Gillard, that is the Prime Minister, and Joel Klein. But what's interesting is, 3 years later, as we've learnt from New York, they're abandoning performance-based pay, bonus pay, because it doesn't work. And indeed, the studies show that not only does it not improve educational outcomes for kids, in many cases, we've gone backwards. They've gone backwards in terms of educational outcome because they've compromised that very essence of collegiality, which defines great teaching and learning. The second thing, of course, our government wants to do in Australia is bonuses for schools, rewards for schools. Again, on the basis of national standardised tests, and so on and so forth. They want high-stakes tests, and attached to them they want rewards and sanctions, which makes them even more high-stakes, all of which contributes to a narrowing curriculum and other unintended consequences. They want to give those schools, again up to 10% of schools, a reward of $100,000, one-off, 1 year, or $75,000 if it's a primary school, for their outstanding achievement. Well, if education is a right, and we certainly assert that, we believe that, if it's a right for every child, what makes the education of some kids in those 10% of schools more important than the educational rights of the 90% of kids in every other school? What we don't need gimmicks, we don't need corporate-style bonuses. What we need governments around the world to fulfil their obligation to properly and adequately fund education, to invest in our kids today and their futures tomorrow. Like Ian, he mentioned it earlier when he was speaking about introducing your minister. He mentioned that we were in New York earlier this year at an international summit hosted by the OECD, our Global Union Federation Education International, and the US Department of Education. And those invited to participate were the ministers and the union leaders from 10 of the top performing countries in the world, PISA rated, and 10 rapidly emerging countries. Ian and I were there, but on the sideline, because our ministers didn't attend. And if there was two ministers, and I'll speak for my own minister, you can reach your own conclusion. If there was one minister that should have attended, it was my minister. Probably yours. Because what we heard from ministers of top performing countries, the Finns, the ministers from Canada, Ontario, the Singapore minister, and others, was that success does not lie and cannot be found, will not be found in standardisation of education. Success is found in respect for teachers and respect for the professional autonomy of teachers. That's where education success is found. So spare us the platitudes. Deeds, not words. Back your teachers. Show the respect that we deserve and that we will from now on demand. Let's speak up. Solidarity.